He beat Volkanovski once by decision and once by knockout, so when Islam Makhachev talks about the Australian's chances against anyone, people in the fight game stop scrolling and start listening. And this time what he said is going to change how you look at UFC 333. Because the man who has shared the octagon with Alexander Volkanovski twice, the man who has felt exactly how dangerous that pressure and that gas tank really are, just gave his honest read on whether the featherweight king can survive Movsar Evloev, and it is not the confident prediction most fans expected. Volkanovski, sitting at 28 wins and 4 losses, is about to defend his featherweight throne against the unbeaten Movsar Evloev, a fighter carrying a perfect 20-0 record into the biggest night of his career. The date is October 24th, the location is Etihad Arena on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, and UFC 333 is shaping up to be one of those cards where the champion is not just fighting an opponent, he is fighting a narrative. Because for years Evloev has been the guy everyone in the featherweight division quietly avoided, the wrestler nobody wanted to deal with, the fighter who grinds out decisions and never seems to lose a step. Now he finally gets his shot at gold, and the man giving his opinion on how this plays out is somebody who knows Volkanovski better than almost anyone outside his own training camp. Islam Makhachev, the reigning UFC welterweight champion, spoke at a press event in Russia recently, and what came out of his mouth was not hype, it was not disrespect, it was something that felt a lot more like a scouting report, that he made it clear that Evloev is not walking into an easy fight, that everyone including Evloev himself understands Volkanovski is a nightmare matchup for absolutely anybody in that division. But then Makhachev pointed to something that a lot of fans have been whispering about for a while now, the age gap, and what it might mean once the first 2 rounds are in the books. Evloev is 5 years younger than the 37-year-old champion, and according to Makhachev, that youth could be the difference maker when things get deep into the championship rounds. That he did not call Volkanovski washed. He did not disrespect a legacy that includes some of the greatest wins in featherweight history, but he did say something that carries a lot of weight coming from a man who has actually tested that legacy inside the cage. Makhachev said, Volkanovski is simply not the same fighter he was a couple of years ago, that the peak version of Volkanovski, the one who ran through the division and gave lightweight legends fits, is not exactly the man stepping in against Evloev this October. He was careful to add that even a version of Volkanovski that is past his absolute best is still one of the most dangerous fighters on the planet, which tells you this is not a prediction built on disrespect, it is a prediction built on experience. And that experience is exactly why this take matters so much, because Makhachev is not some analyst watching from the outside. He is a man who has lived through 50 minutes of fighting Volkanovski across 2 different bouts, and both of those fights tell 2 very different stories. The first meeting happened back in 2023, when Volkanovski moved up from featherweight to challenge for the lightweight title that Makhachev was defending. That night is still talked about as one of the greatest performances of Volkanovski's career, even in defeat, because he pushed Makhachev to the limit, he made it a real fight, he showed the kind of heart that turned him into a legend in the first place. And in the end, the judges gave the nod to Makhachev by decision. It was close, it was brutal, and it proved that Volkanovski belonged on the biggest stage the sport had to offer, even against a fighter many consider one of the most complete in the world. But the rematch later that same year told a completely different story, because this time Makhachev did not need the judges, he landed a head kick that put Volkanovski's lights out, ending the rivalry in a way that nobody quite expected after how competitive the first fight had been. So when Makhachev now looks at Volkanovski heading into a title defense against a hungry, unbeaten wrestler in Evloev, he is drawing on the only kind of knowledge that actually matters in this sport, real time spent in the cage with the man. And what he sees is a champion who is still elite, still capable of beating almost anyone on a given night, but also a champion who may finally be catching up to Father Time, the one opponent nobody in the sport ever finds a way to beat. Now let's talk about Evloev for a second, because this fight is not just about Volkanovski slowing down, it is about a genuinely elite challenger finally getting his moment. 20 fights, 0 losses, and a resume built on smothering wrestling, relentless pace, and a style that has frustrated everyone he has faced inside the octagon. Evloev has been calling for this title shot for what feels like forever, and there is a very real argument that he has been the most avoided threat in the entire featherweight division, that he knows exactly what he is walking into too. Makhachev made that clear. Evloev is not some overconfident challenger who thinks this is going to be easy. He understands that Volkanovski is one of the toughest outs in the sport regardless of age or supposed decline. But confidence built on preparation is a dangerous thing, and if Evloev can use his wrestling to control range, force Volkanovski into deep water, and lean on that 5-year age advantage the way Makhachev suggests, October 24th could turn into the night the featherweight division changes forever. Of course, predictions are just predictions, and Volkanovski has made a career out of proving people wrong when they count him out. This is a man who has already gone to war with some of the greatest fighters of this era and found ways to win fights nobody expected him to win, so writing him off completely, even with Makhachev's comments in mind, would be a mistake. Still, there is something different about hearing this specific opinion from this specific person, because Makhachev is not a pundit chasing headlines. He is the only man walking around who has actually finished Volkanovski inside the octagon, and he did it with a single kick that ended a rivalry that many believed would define an era. When somebody like that tells you a fighter is not quite what he used to be, it hits. Different than the usual pre-fight noise you hear from analysts who have never traded punches with either MNSO as UFC 333 approaches at Etihad Arena on Yas Island. The questions keep piling up. Does age finally catch up to Volkanovski on the biggest stage? Does Evloev's perfect record and suffocating style finally get him the gold he has been chasing for years? Or does the champion once again find a way to defy the odds like he has done so many times before? One thing is certain. This is not just another title defense. This is a crossroads moment for the featherweight division, and the man who knows Volkanovski best just told the world exactly what he thinks is coming. October 24th is going to answer every single one of these questions, and whichever way it goes, this fight is about to be talked about for a very long time. Make sure you are subscribed and notifications are turned on, because when this fight happens, we are breaking down every single second of it right here.